Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Morgan. This is my channel Pisces Paperbacks, and today I'm going to do a pretty quick recap of like stats for the year in terms of my reading, reflecting on just the reading year in general and just the year in general, and then going into just a couple goals that I have going forward. So I actually filmed this video already today, like a couple hours ago. But that was right after I'd showered, and my hair dried so good that I was like, it's worth it to refilm. I look great. So just a general review before we begin. I read 75 books this year. I'm filming today, December 29th, so there's still 2 days left in the year, and I'm expecting to hopefully finish at least one more book this year, but it's not going to make any significant changes to the statistics, so I thought I would just film this and get it out of the way. I did a lot of rereading this year. I reread 12 books that I had previously read in other years. So of the 75, that total is now down to, 63 unique books that were new to me. And even within that 12, there was a trilogy that I read twice and one book that I read 4 times. So it's really six individual books that I read that year, of those books. And then within the 63 books that I read this year, there was a lot of times where I was reading large numbers of books from the same author. So I think I read 6 books by Amanda Quick, like back to back to back, her entire Burning Cove series. I read the entirety of the Smythe Smith Quartet, which is 4 books. And I read, I think, not counting the Mount trilogy, I think I read 9 books by Megan March, and so that is a large chunk of the books that I read this year. And so it's a lot of repeats, a lot of romance. You're gonna see that going in, and yeah, so that's kind of how the year went for me. A lot of Kindle Unlimited, like in the middle, a lot of smutty monster romances. That was a large portion of my reading in the middle of the year as well. So I have my iPad here, and basically what I'm going to do is do a screen recording and put that up on the screen here, so you will hopefully be able to see what I see. So let's start that now. So to start, this is the first page of the spreadsheet with all of the books that I read and all of the stats and all the info that you put in. This is the book tracker by Allie at the Hardback Hoarder. She actually made a new one for 2023 that looks amazing but is not free, but it looks so cool. I'll link the video that she posted about it, so I'm thinking about buying it. I don't know, I haven't decided yet. But let's get into the stats. So this is the statistics page, the nice little overview. This is what I'm obsessed with. I'm obsessed with looking at this. And if we just start with ratings, let me see if I can make this really big. So 24%, or 25%, the largest chunk, the green, is my 3-star books. So I had 18 3-star books this year and 17 4-star books this year. That is about 50% of my books were 3 or 4 stars. And then within all the rest of it, I had 8 5-stars, 5 4.5 stars, 9 3.5 stars, 6 2-star books, 2 2.5-star books, 1 1.5 star, 1 1 star. And then if we go down to my genres, 65% of the books that I read this year were romance. So that was 46 books. My next highest genre was fantasy. I read 7 fantasy books and 4 graphic novels, 3 horror, which is really low for the past few years. Only 2 mystery, 1 sci-fi, also really low for the past few years. So not a great year in terms of non-romance reading. And then over on the side, we got a little more numbers games. So the total number of pages of all the books that I put on the spreadsheet is 21,000 pages. I believe if I go on Goodreads, my average page length is like 279. So it's really swinging short this year. A lot of short, quick books. That was kind of the vibe. Right below that is format. So right here, 56% of the books I read were audiobooks from the library, 37% were ebooks. I only read 4 physical books this year, which sucks. And then 85% of the books I read this year were adult, which I mostly read romance, so that lines up. And if we go over here, this is what I want to talk about. the diversity of author identity this year was bad for me. I don't know how other people noted, but I just kind of went with what this has. I know it's like a different format on the New Year's tracker, but I think 82% of the books I read this year were by white authors, and 88% were by women. So the gender distribution I don't care as much about, but I had made a point of wanting to reduce the percentage of white authors that I read a little bit year by year, and I was successful the last 2 years, but this year, because it was just, so the way this works though is it is counting 75 different authors. So if I took out repeats and just put each author's name in once, it wouldn't be as large of a percentage, like it would be distributed a little bit better, but I'm not going to go back and fix this. So 75 author names, those names were white 82% of the time. And I don't want to make excuses. I know the onus is on me as the reader to choose the authors that I'm supporting. But the explanation for this is that I was doing a lot of comfort reading, which for me means a lot of historical Regency romance, which is a notoriously difficult arena for authors of color, which in and of itself is an issue. And then also Kindle Unlimited, which is based on algorithms and getting recommendations from Book Talk. And if you paid any attention to the Book Talk discourse that's been happening throughout the entire year in the Kindle Unlimited situation, it's just, I think, more difficult for authors of color to get their work promoted by the algorithm. And again, I'm not trying to make an excuse, but it is an explanation for what happened, and it's embarrassing as fuck for me. So that's what happened. And I also read 55% books that I had read from authors before, which is actually really interesting. I didn't know that. Usually it's new to me authors as a majority. This is the first time I think ever that it's been read before as the majority. So if you look at subgenres, the subgenres I read most were historical, contemporary, and fantasy. Those were all romance situations. And then of the books that I read the years that they were released, about half of the books I read were released either this year or last year. And then 10 books were released in 2019, was my third biggest year. So that's kind of it for statistics. If you want to see my monthly stats, this is like a very cool sheet, but very hard to read because there's just like a lot of details on there. So yeah, that's kind of the situation for the year. It was a lot of rereads. It was a lot of authors that I've been reading for a long time or am familiar with. And that's just kind of, and then also a lot of Kindle Unlimited. So that's kind of what my year in reading was like. And then if I just do like a general reflection, this was a pretty unmemorable, uninspired year of reading for me. Generally, when I think back, there's not really anything that jumps to mind as like a new favorite or something that really stands out. If I'm not counting rereads, I only had one new 5-star book this year, and it was A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall, which is a great book. It's a favorite of the year because it's the only 5-star I had, but it's not a new favorite of all time. And I just wasn't vibing with reading this year. I was in a really year-long reading slump, basically. It just wasn't the energy that I was kind of feeling. And generally, if I'm reflecting on the whole year, I also experienced a really major loss in my family at the beginning of this year. That was extremely difficult, still is extremely difficult. But this year in general was also a really big, important year for me. I moved out of my mom's house again. I got my own apartment, and I moved back to Philly, and I got a job that I really love. And literally every single day when I'm walking around outside, I'm like, I'm so lucky to be here and be living here. And I feel like it was a really big year for personal growth for me and getting more independent and feeling like an adult for the first time in a long time. And I am really just so happy with where my life has been, that even though reading has kind of taken a back seat, it's something that I want to prioritize going into the next year. But it almost feels like I should feel like it's a waste of a year in terms of reading, because so much of it just kind of like has just washed away so easily. But it wasn't a waste of a year at all, because it was a really big, important year for me that I was so grateful for. and I had such a nice time, and I'm so excited now to have more energy to be into booktube again. And I've been posting stupid little TikToks, and I love them so much. It's so fun, and I love books, and I love my life, and I love all my hobbies, and I love doing all of this. So I'm looking into the future now, and that's kind of my reflection on 2022, that it was a year of a lot of mediocrity, but going forward, I have some goals that I maybe want to discuss now. So first, I would like to work more on consistency. It's something that I've always struggled with. I think I have ADHD, but I know for a fact that I struggle building routines and sticking to them. So oftentimes, I will go through really like short spurts of wanting to read, and I'll read like 12 books in like 4 days, and then I won't read anything for 3 weeks because I'm just not feeling it. You know what I mean? And that's not a routine. That's not consistency. And I do think that I maybe thrive better with consistency. So something I want to do is try to read for 10 minutes every day, or at least one physical page. So when it comes to audiobooks, I take my dog on 3 walks a day, and I walk to work. So I'm outside for like an hour and a half every day total, just like walking around. For one of those times that I'm outside, I'd like to be listening to an audiobook. I don't have to listen to it the whole day, just the one walk, you know what I mean? And if I'm not feeling it, I don't have to listen the rest of the day. I just have to do it once. And if I'm going to do an ebook or a physical book, I can maybe do that in the morning when I'm eating my cereal, which I do every single day. And I just kind of want to work on that consistency. I'm not going to beat myself up about taking a day off, but if I can be more mindful of that being something I want to do, that'd be great. And then a second thing that I want to do is to focus more on the books that I own. So I only read 4 physical books last year. I don't think I made like any progress. I don't think I read a single one of the books that I own this year. I'm so serious. And I buy them because I'm excited about them. So when I'm thinking about the books I want to read this year, I want to start getting ebooks and audiobooks for the physical books that I own, so that I can make them more portable and make it easier for me to read them, because I want to read them. And so that's going to be another thing, obviously working on the books that I own. A third thing that I want to work on, and this is more specifically a reading goal, not just like a general book goal, but a specific reading goal, is I would like to work on series. I do a lot of starting series and not continuing, or reading a lot of it and not finishing. There's one romance, like paranormal romance series, where within the span of 2 months, I read 6 out of the 7 books, and then it's been 3 years and I've not read the 7th one. I don't know why. It's just the way it is. So I'd like to focus on series next year, which is an important thing because I want to get more into like sci-fi and fantasy, like bigger things, even though I like my short little standalone fantasies. So that's kind of the vibe. Also, of course, diversifying my author pool is a priority, but yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling looking into next year. I hope you guys had a good year. I hope you had a better reading year than me. Let's be real. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know how you're feeling in the comments. Let me know what you've been reading. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!